Hi there. Thank you for joining us. If you are joining us live, you are most welcome. We are here today with Leslie Sim, as you can see on the other side.
Hello.
Hi there, Leslie. She's the founder of Newsletter Glue, which is a fabulous plugin for WordPress, which I can totally endorse. And the reason I can endorse it is because I use it twice a week to get the newsletter which we produce out. It really is great, but obviously you might be curious as to how it works and what it does, and that's the intention for today. I do have to say a couple of things. If you are watching this in the WP Builds Facebook group, then you'll need to go up into the thread, and at the very bottom of that thread you'll find a link from StreamYard, and if you wish to let us know who you are, you'll have to click the link, otherwise you will remain anonymous. The other thing I have to do is apologize, because the links all got messed up because about, well, I don't know, probably about half an hour ago AWS, Amazon Web Services in Frankfurt, collapsed, which took down the live stream that we were going to do, so we've had to sort of divert it over to this platform instead. But I would love it if you've got any comments or questions during the course of this webinar. That's great. Put them in the comments and we'll do our best to put them on the screen and let Leslie answer them. So Leslie, without further ado, tell us about yourself. What's your background? How come you're on the podcast today? How did you get involved with WordPress and all that good stuff?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me, Nathan. Super happy to be here. I feel like we've been doing a bunch of stuff together for a while now, and it's been really great. It's always nice to be on WP Builds.
Thank you.
My background, I've done a whole bunch of different things. I think you're familiar. Everything from government employee, unmotivated government employee, I should say, to ad agency person, took a life detour, became a freediving instructor for a while, dabbled in craft beer, and then came back into the real world and started a digital marketing agency. And that's kind of how I first got involved in WordPress. I still remember the very first time that I tried using WordPress. I found it super tough. And it's funny now because now it's like a breeze and you just like go through everything and it's all there and you expect and you know what to expect. But remembering how tough I used to find it is kind of nice, because then when customers also find it tough, you know, there's at least a little bit of empathy there. And then after doing the digital agency thing for a while, I got sick of that and thought, maybe I should try my hand at a WordPress plugin. And here we are. So Newsletter Glue is, sorry, you were going to say?
No, please.
So Newsletter Glue is the plugin that me and my co-founder Ahmed have built, and it uses the WordPress Block Editor to let you publish newsletters the way that you do blog posts. So we connect to a whole bunch of email service providers and a whole bunch more in the very near future. And so you don't have to go into your, sorry for insulting email service providers, but go into the clunky email service provider editors and create your emails there. You can just do it on WordPress instead. And it's, I think, at least a much nicer experience.
It really is. It's a really great experience. This may be a point of misunderstanding. That is to say, you literally do everything inside of WordPress and you hit publish just as you would in WordPress. And there's no extra cost. You don't have to go anywhere and copy and paste something that you've previously written over in WordPress. But the real magic source is all the little blocks which come along with the plugin to create the different layouts. And obviously, if you're familiar with the block editor, you're now probably starting to get a strong idea that there's a block for this and a block for that. Well, Leslie's got 6 blocks which kind of basically allow you to do almost anything that you would wish to do with a newsletter, and they can be made to look utterly rubbish like my one, or they can be made to look really nice like the one that Leslie's going to build for us today. Just before we go anywhere, because of the confusion with the links, if you are watching this and you feel that there may be somebody who may benefit from this, you think, oh, I know somebody who's talking about newsletters, send them this link, wpbuilds.com/live. It should be airing over at that link. So if there's been any confusion, sorry about that. It's Jeff Bezos's fault. That's all I'm saying about that. But he doesn't care because he's off to space. Right, let's get rid of that link. So we're going to take it in different sections today. We've talked very briefly about what Leslie's going to do, and essentially I've asked her to show you the back end, show you the settings that are available, show you the blocks that are available, how to build a newsletter, and then finally, perhaps if there's time, have some finessing of that newsletter so that it looks just like you would want it to, with good old-fashioned CSS, which is a really nice way to do it. That's what I've done in some cases, just to give it exactly what I wanted. And then Q&A at the end. Should anybody write in a question, then we'll have a little bit of time at the end to Q&A it, if that's all right. How's that sound, Leslie?
Great. And I'd also like to sneak in there a little sneak preview of something that we are currently building. So. Yes. We are currently building a pre-designed patterns. So if you're familiar at all with Gutenberg and patterns, right now what happens is people design their patterns and then they upload it on a pattern directory. And then if you have Gutenberg installed, or if you're using like a recent WordPress version, you can plug in these patterns into your blog post and use them. So that's kind of how patterns work on your blog, but we've done something slightly different. So we've kind of made it such that you can create patterns the way you would create a blog post. So in the block editor, you can just kind of plug and play things and save it as a pattern, which you can then use. So that's been out for a while now, but what we are launching super soon in the next week or two is default patterns, so pre-designed patterns that we've designed for you. And but we didn't want to just launch it with a bunch of placeholders. We wanted to customize them so that when you see it for the first time, it's with your logo, your name, your address.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And and so we've been building this tiny widget that shows up even for existing users. And so they activate the widget, and then we get you to plug in your logo, plug in this and that. And so like all the default patterns come immediately with
nice.
your own stuff.
So it's basically ready to go. We'll certainly enjoy looking at that. The next thing I suppose to do would be to just get your screen up. I don't know, Leslie, just before I put it up so that nobody's freaked out too much. Yeah, I was going to say, if you swap it to,
okay.
There we go. I will add it to the stream. 1 second. There we go. You should be able to see Leslie's screen now. I'm going to remain on the call. If anybody's got any questions and I feel that it's worth sort of interrupting, I will. I'll kind of leave it to Leslie. But Leslie, if you don't have like a diatribe already figured out and you just want to have a conversation, I'll just stay around and we'll chat through it as we go. So off you go.
Yeah, I think chatting will be nice.
Okay,
and especially
great.
like if you have questions, because I can only see my screen. So like if people have questions and stuff, feel free to interrupt me and ask them. Okay. Or if you have questions,
you know me, I'm bound to have questions. I'm going to spoil it all. Right. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Thank you. We'll do it that way then.
Cool. Okay, so this is a test site. And over here we are in the settings of Newsletter Glue. So before I go into it, I thought I'd just mention that the first time you activate the plugin, you actually get taken through a wizard. So it literally only takes about a minute, and I think Nathan can attest to that. So it takes about a minute, and you really connect your API, and then you choose your audience, your segment /tag, your from name. So this is the name that your subscribers will see in the inbox, your from email, and you're done. Basically, that's the wizard.
Just sorry, I knew I would interrupt. Right, I'm going to be awful. Just to be clear, what we're doing at the moment is we're going to be connecting it, just giving it the sort of the names that will be used throughout all of the newsletters being sent. And is this the connection? I can't remember. Is this also where we're connecting? Let's say it's Mailchimp or Sendinblue or whatever it might be.
Yeah. So the first time you activate it, you'll be taken to a wizard. So we don't have the wizard here because I've not thought ahead and I haven't. Yeah. So this is what it looks like after the wizard. But in theory, you will go through like a connection thing. So you connect your API. And so if you've messed up somehow and you wanted to if you have to manually connect everything, then you can do that over here under settings and the connect tab. But if not, yeah, you should be all ready to go. And so the first time you connect, after you've done everything and you're connected to Mailchimp, we actually take you into a blog post. And this is a demo post. So it says here, hey there, play with this demo post to get comfortable with Newsletter Glue. And we give you some quick tips to get started. So the
I
first
love
tip,
that little GIF, by the way, of the little monkey. It's just really good.
Thanks. Yeah, so I'm not going to go through this entire post, obviously, but the thing that you should know is that this email is ready to send as a newsletter. So you can actually scroll all the way down, and at the bottom of the email and at the bottom of the post and at the bottom of all your posts going forwards, you'll see this meta box, this Newsletter Glue meta box. And over here, you can change the subject, preview text, and all of this stuff. And you can send yourself a test email. So let's just go ahead and do that.
This doesn't work through your provider, does it? The test is going through PHP Mailer, is that right?
No, so it depends on which email service provider you're connected to.
Got it.
So in Mailchimp's case, we can hook it up to Mailchimp, so it does get sent via Mailchimp.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it just depends on which API endpoints.
Okay.
And here we go. Perfect. That works so much better. Yeah. So this is the test email actually. Came straight away, and you can see it looks exactly like you'd expect it to.
Yep.
And here's the YouTube link and all of that, and the GIFs work as well.
Nice.
Yeah. So that in a second, everyone pack up your bags, go home. That's the plugin.
That's it. We're done.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the main thing, and that's kind of like how the plugin works. So you send the test email, and let's say you're happy with how the test email looks. You can toggle this little toggly thing over here, and it says send as newsletter when post is published or updated. And just as like a sanity check, you can see this box is checked as well. And that's just helpful if you're, right in the thick of your content. And, just before you hit publish, you want to make sure, oops, am I sending this to 10,000 people? So if you don't want to send it, you can just uncheck that box, and you'll see that it's unchecked here as well. So the two are linked.
I should also say at this point that it works for scheduling posts as well. It's not just when it's published, or so it obviously it becomes published, but you can schedule things in the same way that you would anticipate elsewhere. So that's how I do it. I set them for the appropriate time for the blog post, and then just walk away, and it goes out all by itself.
Magic.
I know.
Actually, let's schedule the post. I always forget to demo the scheduling, but since you're here and since you've so wisely talked about it, let's do that. So we've pushed it to, when should we do it? Tomorrow?
Yeah.
There we go. So it says schedule. And so if right now, as you can see, we're doing exactly what you would do if you were scheduling a normal post. Let's just go down. So we hit that. It says working on your newsletter, and your email newsletter is scheduled. So you can unschedule it if you regret, if you're looking at this thing and you're like, I spot a typo, you can unschedule. The scheduling is taking place on the WordPress side of things, not the Mailchimp side of things.
Yeah.
So so you can just unlink that and you'll be fine. You can also view the status log, and you can see the subject line, the status, and the time and date it's meant to go out. And yeah. So that's
good feature. Nice.
Thanks. That's essentially how it works. So for now,
just to be just another thing to mention at this point is that you can make your newsletter look one way, and with with your WordPress templates, you can make the blog post look completely different. Maybe we'll stray into that a little bit later, but your newsletter could be really plain, and your blog post could be really full of color and a rich header and footer and all of that kind of stuff. But in Leslie's case, it's black and white text with a few images. You can really go to town with your template, and obviously you know, depending on the way you've got your website set up, you can put content inside of other bits of content and so on. So, yeah.
Yeah. I guess essentially what the logic behind it is that your blog theme doesn't translate into your newsletter theme. And
Yes.
so your newsletter theme will look completely different. And why don't we actually go into that right now?
Okay.
And we can show what that means. So in our case, like your blog post, we're using the 2020 theme. And so that's activated, 2021, sorry, I mean.
Yep.
And that's what happened. That's what shows up on the website of things.
Mm-hmm.
And in our case, we use this thing called the Newsletter Theme Designer, which you can find in Newsletters, Settings, and the tab Newsletter Theme Designer. And so over here, you can design your newsletter theme. So the nice thing about newsletters is that they are much simpler on the whole, like design-wise, in comparison to blogs and websites. And the reason for that is because of email clients. So how do I explain this? So like when you're looking at a website, you're looking at it via your browser, your web browser like Chrome or Safari, Firefox. When you're looking at an email, you're looking at it via your email client, which could be Gmail, Outlook, and so on. And some email clients like Outlook are kind of old and don't have all the, it's just not that modern. And so the things that we can do design-wise with email have to be simpler as a result. And yeah, so maybe you didn't need to know all of that detail.
No, it's good, but it's you know, you've put in the options to change the things which can be changed and left out everything which can't be changed. So it's very sensible, yeah.
Yeah. So let's go through a couple of things. Email container. So we've got the background, which is the thing at the back. And then we've got the container, which is this main bit over here. In general, I mean, it's nice to just kind of keep it white. If you want, you can do no color as well. That's up to you. And then we've got padding. So let me just make it a bit more extreme so that you can see. And obviously, the bottom stuff is there as well. Yeah. And then for fonts, so we've just got a bunch of basic fonts, and these are guaranteed to show up in all email clients, which is what you want. You don't want your fonts breaking without you expecting it. And we've just got some simple color pickers as well for the headers. So that's how it looks. And then we've got the option to do H4 to H6 as well, with paragraphs and links, buttons, and so on. Let's just do this because I like my buttons a bit more round.
Oh, okay. I go for dead square every time.
Okay, so the next few things are a bit more interesting. So we give you a couple of options, some of which Nathan requested, so you can thank him for that.
Yay!
So you can add your logo over here. Let's use WP Build.
Oh, you are good.
And so in order for it to show up, we have to check this box, and here it is.
Nice.
You can set the logo width as well. So we want it smaller, or let's make it a bit bigger. There we go. And if you want to add the title of the URL of your logo, you can do that. So for example, wbbuilds.com. There we go. And so now this becomes clickable.
Oh, so that's the link. It's a clickable link. It's not the link to the actual logo file. It's where it'll go if somebody clicks it. Yeah.
And then you have the option to add a featured image. So featured images are what you do when you write a post. On the right-hand column, you've got the option to add a featured image, and that shows up, in blog posts, in excerpts. If you have like a recent posts widget, that's where the featured image often shows up. In our case, we pull that same image that you've used and we add it to the top of the newsletter. It's just like an easy way so that you don't have to duplicate work.
Yeah.
And we give you the option to link that that image to the post in question. So you have that option as well. And then you have the option to push it above or below the headline.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, and you can kind of see that our little theme is coming along.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing is blog post title. So this is the blog post title, and you have the option to edit or remove it. So in our case, like for example, when I always build a theme for myself, I like to remove everything. So for example, I remove this, I remove this, I remove this, and that just gives me more flexibility to use a pattern later on, which we'll go into. But yeah, if you don't want to use patterns at all and you just want to be sending newsletters straight from your blog, then just setting it up here would be the best way to go.
Right. Okay. Because there's flexibility to add all of these things into the post itself, and you'll see that later. So a lot of the things that Leslie just removed, you can just put in later on as you actually cultivate each individual blog post or email. Yep.
Yeah. And then if you are a super nice human being and you would like to support us, you can add this tiny little built with Newsletter Glue at the bottom and receive our undying thanks.
I think I unchecked that. I'm really sorry.
That's okay. You have me on the show.
I'm not a super nice human being.
Okay, so that's pretty much it for the newsletter theme designer. The last thing that I want to say is we've also got mobile as well. Mm-hmm. So with mobile, we take out all the options where it should be the same, and we just leave you with things like padding and font sizes, which you don't want to. If you have something big on the on your browser, you don't want it necessarily to show up in mobile, so you make it smaller, things like that. But aside from that, everything else, we just keep it the same for desktop and mobile, so you don't go crazy. And if you regret everything that you've done, you can just reset to default style, reset, and yeah, then it just goes back to what you started out with.
That reset was really useful for me at the beginning. I probably clicked it a couple of times just because I wanted to see what, I just went through everything and just put awful colors in just to see what they did. So that's actually, that saved me probably quite a lot of time, actually. That was great.
Cool. That's good to know. Okay. So that's the newsletter theme designer. We've talked briefly about email defaults and connect already as well. I'm not going to go through them beyond that, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Then also another quick thing is newsletter blocks. So here's kind of where you can, this is actually just a good way to see what blocks we have available. So you can see the demo and you get taken to a little video where you can see how it works and all of that. And you have an option to set defaults with show hide settings, which I'll go into a little bit later on. And if you are suffering, like some of us, from having way too many blocks because you've downloaded 5 other block plugins and you now have 100 random blocks and you want to turn stuff off that you don't use, you can do that super easily. Just turn off what you don't use. And yeah, that just keeps things clean and simple on the block editor side of things.
Yep.
So that's newsletter blocks, custom CSS. Just go through this really quickly as well. This is where you can add specific things, specific CSS styling to your newsletters. So Nathan mentioned this a little bit just now as well. So the easiest way to do this is create a class name and then whatever special style stuff you want to add in here. And then in the block, click on Advanced, drop down, and you'll see additional CSS classes. So just make sure that this class matches up with this class, and you'll be good to go.
When Leslie later shows you templates and you design your own templates, this coming up with these little CSS fixes here are really useful. So, for example, you might just want the very last block in the entire email to have an extra bit of padding at the bottom. So you could, I don't know, come up with newsletter padding, newsletter last, or something like that. Yeah, and I use that quite a lot. And then I had a bit of I added a class of, I think, just like spacer or something like that, just to add a bit of space between each of them. And another important thing to mention is this CSS is only affecting the newsletter. It's not affecting the blog post, because that will be handled by your theme.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan.
Yeah.
Couldn't have said it better. And the last thing, which I don't suggest you touch unless you're an email developer, not just a web developer, is this little checkbox over here. And so what this does is it removes all of the CSS from our entire plugin, and only the CSS you add in this box will remain. So anything that we've done with our blocks, anything that you just did with the newsletter theme designer, all of that will just be stripped away completely. And yeah, so this is handy if you are a control freak and you want your newsletter to look exactly the way you want it, then this is the way that you could do it.
Yeah. Just a quick question coming in from Max. Hi, Max. He says, Max. Looking great. Just to get this right, this needs a service to send the emails and only Gutenberg. That's right. So the first step that you would be wizarded through is connecting one of currently 6 email providers, and the list is the big ones, you know, like ActiveCampaign and Mailchimp. And then you construct everything in the block editor. You don't need to, from that moment on, log into Mailchimp again, unless you wanted to obviously look at the stats and the deliverability and all of that kind of stuff. But you build everything inside Gutenberg, and when you click publish, Mailchimp et al. Will send it immediately or whenever you've scheduled it. So yeah, you've got it right, Max. Yeah, so this way you get the deliverability of Mailchimp with the powerful block editor from WordPress. Yep. Yeah, I think that's the thing which is hard to describe, is that is the key thing to get here, is that you build it in WordPress, and therefore you've got the content already created, you've got the SEO of the blog post, and basically for free, if you like, you also get a newsletter out of it. There is no additional work to do. There is some upfront work that we're looking at now to set up the way that the email looks, but so long as you tick the box to say send it, when you click publish, it goes out, and you don't ever have to go copy, paste Mailchimp backwards, forwards, make it look right and all of that. It just does it, and brilliantly too. Yeah, you got it, Max. Yeah, and one additional thing is this way, if you already have a Mailchimp account or ActiveCampaign account or whatever it is, then you don't have to do any migration. So your list, you know, and all your automations just stays in your Mailchimp. Yeah. So yeah, no real like what do you call it, like switching costs, because we're not. Right. Yeah, there's no time wasted migrating all your email lists from one service to another service. You are the conduit for sending the emails, not the infrastructure which actually sends the emails. You're building them inside a familiar interface. This, by the way, is so good, I would imagine, for clients. You know, they've got a Mailchimp account, they're familiar with writing blog posts. That they never log into. Yeah. But this feels like, you know, they've got it. You could sell this as a service. We'll add on an email sending plugin, if you like, as well, whilst we're building your website. You could charge for that, I'm sure. Okay, sorry. Yeah, one quick one. Sorry. Yeah. Because Max asked that question, it makes me think that maybe we should show which email clients you currently are able to hook it up to. So let's remove this connection. So we're just connected to Mailchimp. Okay. And so these are what we have right now. So we've got ActiveCampaign, Campaign Monitor, Get Response, Mailchimp, MailerLite, Sendinblue, Sendy. On the very, very near horizon, we've got ConvertKit and Klaviyo coming up. As well as some connections with some existing WordPress plugins which do SMTP stuff, which is exciting. Oh, right. So you could send it in your own, I don't know, through Amazon SES yourself instead of using something like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, that's fascinating. Okay, we'll wait and see. So those 6, was it 6? Was it, did I just see 6?
I think 7.
No, 7. 7
Yep.
plus ConvertKit and Klaviyo coming
Yep.
around the corner very soon. Okay, great.
Yeah. And we're always adding stuff to our backlog as well. So if you have an email service provider that you'd like to suggest, then just email me. You can actually email support@newsletterglue.com, and I'll receive it, say hello, and be very happy to hear from you.
Great.
Okay, shall we keep moving on?
Yeah, that's good. Let's go for it.
Okay, cool. Actually, just before I go, I just wanted to say, since you mentioned agencies being able to sell this as an additional thing that they can do for their clients, we actually have a whole bunch of agencies who currently use us, and that's pretty much what they do. So the kind of like problem that they encounter is they set up this really nice site for their client, a marketing site, and they start collecting leads, and their client is, they have a full-time job, right? That's why they've hired a WordPress agency to deal with this stuff. But they've collected all of these leads, and because the client is busy, they don't ever send out any newsletters, but they're writing blog posts and stuff like that. And so this kind of just reduces that additional newsletter sending hurdle and allows clients who are already familiar with WordPress to just go in and send out existing posts as newsletters. So they actually get a lot of benefit out of it. And for agencies, it's much easier to convince their clients to start sending out newsletters because they don't have to do the extra step of going into Mailchimp. Yeah,
it's time saved. The screen that you can see here is you're just sort of selecting which post type. Obviously, you may have a site full of different post types. You can select which post types the Newsletter Glue options will become available on. But just to add, you can see that there's a separate newsletter custom post type there. You can see it says newsletters beta. It's the bit that's highlighted in blue, and that allows you to, in my case, I basically send out the posts. So I'm creating a podcast episode that is just a regular WordPress post, but then occasionally, like I did for this webinar, I wanted not to write a post because then that would be consumed by my RSS feed reader and be sent out to people's podcast players. I didn't want that. So I just used the built-in custom post type of newsletters, and you can create just ordinary newsletters that are not in any way, shape or form going to be sort of conflicting with anything else that you might be doing on the website. So they just sort of stand alone in their own silo, their own little archive. You get wpbuilds.com / newsletters archive, and then the title of the post. It's great. It's good.
Thanks. You've explained it all. Thanks. Save me some words.
It shows I use it though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So custom post types, if you have lots here, like for example, some of our existing customers would have recipes, podcasts, things like that as custom post types. And so you just want to select the one that you intend to use as a newsletter. So for example, here we are in the posts, the block editor, and we have this meta box. But if I remove it, saved, and I refresh,
the internet always slows down when you're on a live thing, doesn't it? It's always the case. It's gone.
Yeah, so it's gone. So scrolling down, trying to scroll down, and it's not here anymore. And so that's just really helpful, especially if you've got a huge WooCommerce page and you don't want this to be showing up on every single custom post type that you created.
that you put on your website. Yeah, that's not good.
So it's easy to just turn it off. And then the last bit is just the pro license. So all of this actually, everything that we've shown so far is only available in the pro license. So plug in your license key and you'll be good to go.
Stick around because Leslie's got a coupon code which you can make use of a little bit later to get yourself a little bit of a discount, which is very nice of her. But we'll come to that later. Let's carry on.
Okay, so just to recap quite quickly, we've covered email defaults, connect, which is email defaults. So sorry, let me just super quickly go through it. I realized
you've
disconnected. Yeah. Okay, so now you get to see me connecting. So we're in the connect tab. We're going to add a new connection. So in our case, we go to Mailchimp, add the API key, click on connect, and we're connected. Hooray. Okay, let's go back to email defaults now. Here we go. So email defaults, this is the default settings that will show up for at the start of every new post. And these are just kind of pre-filled stuff so that you don't have to be constantly writing the from name and the from email every single time. So we just want to save you a little bit of time and hassle. So that's email defaults. Connect, you just saw. Newsletter theme designer lets you design a theme that looks separate from your blog post. Newsletter blocks, these are the Gutenberg blocks that we're just about to get into. Custom CSS, where you can add specific CSS bits into your newsletter, which won't show up in your blog post. And turn on and off our custom post types. Okay, so now let's go into something a little bit exciting. Let's do the sneak preview of our custom patterns wizard. Should we do it now?
Yeah,
Nathan,
why not?
what do you think?
Why not?
Yeah.
I'll just say, if you've got any questions, obviously do put them into the post like Max did earlier. Probably don't at the minute because it's all very self-explanatory. But if anything does occur to you, stick it in as a comment.
Cool. Okay. So maybe before I go into the wizard, it would be good to give you a little bit of like a bird's eye view of the rest of the plugin. So as Nathan mentioned just now, inside this newsletters data section, we have a newsletters custom post type. And what that means is it looks almost exactly like the post, like your list of posts. The only difference is that these are for newsletters specifically. And it's a custom post type for newsletters. So I'll show you some of the differences in a bit, but you can kind of like logically think about how it kind of sits parallel to your posts. So you can click on add new newsletter or add newsletter here. And this goes straight into the newsletters block editor. And the way you know that it's the newsletters block editor for a newsletter custom post type is you can see the word newsletter over here. In contrast, when you're in the post editor, you can see post over here. So sometimes it can get easy to get mixed up and you get lost. Then just look here and you'll know where you are. Okay, so this is our add new newsletter. I'm not going to build anything right now, just showing you what it looks like. Let's go back. Okay, so this is the newsletters custom post type. The next important thing that I want to show you is templates and styles. This is kind of preemptively named because we have a bunch of things planned for this section, but for now, it only has patterns. And so this is kind of what I talked about earlier, where you have a bunch of patterns and it works the same as the block editor. So you can add a new pattern like I just did. And you are in the block editor again, but in the patterns editor. And you can see that this kind of looks exactly like the newsletter editor, and it's based on the theme that we created for ourselves back in the settings under newsletter theme designer. So
the language around here can get a little bit confusing, can't it? But basically a block pattern that you're going to be creating is just a template. You're going to build something that you can then just reuse every time you want to have that style of email being sent out. So I've basically got 2 or 3, and each time I want to send out a podcast episode, I click the podcast one and everything with its defaults jumps into the editor. And so that's what is being built now, a template, but it's called a pattern because that's what WordPress call it.
Yeah. Okay, so the one thing that you should know is the title of the pattern doesn't show up in the actual pattern. That's just kind of to give it a title. So let's just call it WP Builds Demo. And let's do some super fast things for now. And then I'll show you why I'm just kind of rushing through this in a tiny bit. So I'm going to pull up one of our blocks called the container block. And this is just a way that you can customize the background, or you can turn it into a callout just by toggling on and off the full width. And let's just say hello. Actually, okay, wait. So let's do this. So now it's a heading. Now this is a, okay, so this is another custom block. Again, sorry, I'm speeding through this, and I'll explain why I'm speeding through it in a bit. But yeah, so this is another custom block of ours. I'll show you what it means later on. And if you publish it, let's call this a header, newsletter header. So if we publish this, we can now use the pattern in our posts or in our newsletters. Yeah, so that's kind of how patterns work. Let's go into posts really quickly, and I can show you how we can pull that pattern up. So if we click on Add Block, and we go to Patterns, and we go for Newsletter Header. Hey, we can see WP Builds Demo, add that in, and we've got our nice little pattern all ready to go. So I kind of hope that that gives you an idea of how patterns work. They're basically pre-designed bits that you can add into any post or newsletter once you've built them already. Yeah. Okay, so now I can show you why I rushed through this, and it's because it's important to understand the concept of patterns and the concept of newsletter custom post types, so that I can now show you our default patterns and take you through the patterns wizard.
So this is new, right? This I've not seen this. This is okay. This is exciting.
So this isn't live. It's not public. We are like 99% done. It just needs a bit of polish, but it's everything that you need is more or less there. So yeah.
Okay.
Shall we go through it?
Yeah, lovely.
So in the future now, and hopefully like a week or two's time, when you update the plugin, you'll see a whole bunch of these new patterns, and we've labeled them default, so you know it's a default pattern rather than something you've built yourself. And then we'll have like a big admin notice that you can dismiss, saying to run the patterns wizard. And so when you click on that admin notice, you get taken over here.
Nice.
And so this is our little patterns wizard that we've been working really hard on. And Ahmed has done some finagling. As you can see, I'm not the technical co-founder. So finagling is the only word that I'm able to use. But yeah, so this wizard is done entirely with React and core WordPress elements, components. And so it makes it super fast and basically as leading, like technologically leading as it gets. So there's no PHP in this, and there's no JavaScript libraries or anything like that. So yeah, so it all works. So it works right now. So let's do a demo. And so this also introduces you to the concept of merge tags. So if you're familiar with Mailchimp or any email service provider really, and you're familiar with the concept of adding like your subscriber's name, for example, to the top of a newsletter, that's a merge tag. And we have a bunch of merge tags for you to use as well. And in our case, because we want the patterns to show up with your name, we add that to the merge tag straight away, and that just makes the whole thing feel more magical.
Nice.
Yeah, so we've got your name here, and we've got Sherlock Holmes' address here. So let's add a logo next. So this is my avatar. We don't want that. We want WP builds. So let's add that in. Let's make it a tiny bit bigger, 160. Happy with that. And let's add a Twitter URL. And is it just WP builds as well?
That that'll work. That goes to the Facebook page, I believe. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so we are done. So we can click on done. Customizes our default patterns, and so it automatically redirects you. And if we go over here to our default patterns and click on email preview, there we go. You'll see that
I see. Yeah, that's
WP
nice.
build shows up. And also, if we go to let's go footer inside colored block with logo. So you see WP built, and you see the address over here.
Okay.
So everything just kind of works.
These are nice little components of an email, which one could well imagine just clicking the button and building an email within a few seconds. Obviously, you'd have to rewrite the text, but that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then you have this little publish with love by WP built. And so all of these links magically work. So you don't have to ever go in and manually change anything. We've just done all of that for you already.
That's nice. That's good.
Yeah. And so now, so now it's where it gets interesting, right? Because now we've run the wizard and we've customized all of our default blocks. So now we can go back into the patterns that we've built, the pattern that we've built. We built this just a couple of seconds ago, and we can use the components, the default components, to build something cool for ourselves.
Got it.
So let's say we want this one, we think it looks nice. So we add that in.
I do think that looks nice. That really looks nice. Yeah.
Yay. And then so we have our header. We now want a footer. So since we've got the dark thing going on the top, let's do a lighter one on the bottom. There we go. And so we're happy with that. And okay, so here just give me a second, I can show you. So here you can see we have the merge tag. So this is what it looks like in the editor side of things. Got the merge tags here, they got the merge tags here. This is a link. So we've got a merge tag as the link, the URL. And all of this is all set up for you already. You don't have to touch it anymore. And then from here, you can just add maybe, why didn't that work? Never mind. Okay, so you can just add a paragraph block, and that just helps you so that when you start writing a post, you can just click on the thing and just go at it straight away. So assuming that we're happy with this, we can update. And you can see how we've built an entire full layout in a bunch of seconds, right? In a matter of seconds, because now we're just plugging in components. And so we don't want this to be in the header category anymore, right? Because we've now turned it into a full layout. So we're just going to click on Newsletter Full Layout for the pattern category and update it.
So just to be clear, what we're doing here is modifying or adding to our template library. Really, we've created a combined header and footer that we can reuse later. This isn't actually, because it says pattern at the top right, where there's a little blue underline. We're making templates and not the actual newsletter to go out. But once you've done this once, you're done. You don't have to do it ever again.
Yeah. Okay, so for my own OCD, I just need to, everyone watching can just take a quick 20 seconds break as
You're not enjoying those colors, are you?
I just want to remove, some of these things. Okay.
Reset. That'll do it.
And we just need to get rid of that. Okay, cool. Oh, and then so Yep, everyone, good time for take a glass of water as I deal with my
That's okay.
obsessive.
Yeah, it's okay. Take your time. This is how it
Okay,
works,
cool.
right? Yeah.
Yep. All right. Okay, back to our regular program. So we've created our pattern. So now what we can do, which is the cool thing, so we've kind of been like building on top of building towards creating a newsletter so far, right? So you now know how you can schedule an existing post and send that out as a newsletter. And we've talked a whole bunch about the settings, and now we've created our first pattern, our first newsletter pattern, and it looks completely finished, right? So now what we can do is we can go to newsletters and add new newsletter.
So now we're actually building something that we're going to send.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
So what should we call this? WP builds demo newsletter glue.
Lovely.
And so we click on this blue square button, click on patterns. Now we can go to newsletter full layout and click on this. And there we go. So we have our entire newsletter. It's, it looks 90% done. We can add the title. So if you want to copy this in, just add that in, subheading Nathan Lesby. And yeah, so here's where you can write your newsletter, add a bunch of stuff. And when you're all done, you can send it out as you already know how.
Yep.
And because we've pre-filled all of this, you don't really even have to touch it and just look at it, glance at it if you're happy with how it looks. Toggle the button on and publish your newsletter. Yeah, so that's pretty much how it works. Maybe before we publish it, let's preview the email in browser. So you can see kind of how it looks. So we've got our logo over here, and we haven't written anything, so there's nothing in the middle. And we've got our footer as well.
Those of you that are familiar with Gutenberg, the way that Gutenberg presents itself is often let's just say that it's bigger. So, for example, as you can see, what Leslie's interacting with is this sort of dark, I don't know what color that is. It's like a greeny color. It's high, but when you look at it in the newsletter, it's much less tall, and that's just something that you have to sort of get used to. But it's not a product of Newsletter Glue. That's just how the block editor works. It inserts all these extra things, like the little plus button at the bottom there is consuming a boatload of space that goodness knows why they opted to do it that way, but they have. So that's just go and preview it. Yeah, just go backwards and forwards and preview it. And, if obviously in that case, you may want to say, well, let's put a bit of a spacer in to separate the logo from the header. And that's easy to do because there's a spacer block. Just stick it in and make it the size that you want to. Square it away. Yep. So what was that? About 30 pixels, and now update, and look at that. Perfect. Yeah, but just go. It's good to go backwards and forwards because it may look slightly. If you get it pixel perfect in the block editor, it may be not pixel perfect what you intended on the other end. Yeah. Yeah,
that's such a good tip, Nathan, and the tip of someone who's been using our plugin. Thank you.
Yeah. You get used to it within, like, you just know that's going to be too big or that's going to be too small after you've done it twice. So it's easy. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I guess now that we are in the weeds and we are building a newsletter, I thought we could talk about some of our blocks. Are we good for time, or is this?
Yeah, no, whatever. Yep. That's fine. This is the best bit, I think. These blocks offer you so many cool little things, and just strap in for this bit because this is the best bit. Full concentration now, ladies and gentlemen.
You're just 1 hour in, and now it's full concentration.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
really testing the audience. Okay, so since it's already up here, I figure we can talk about it first, and that's our metadata block. Let me just turn this on so you can see the admin panel over there. So the metadata block, you can pull it up by // metadata if you already know what it's called. Another simple way you can pull it up is by typing in NG, which stands for Newsletter Glue, of course, and you can see all of our blocks showing up like that. So in our case, let's pretend we've clicked on the metadata block, and this will show up. And so here you can, so the idea behind the metadata block, I should start with that, is it gives you little bits of data the same way that you would, that would show up in a blog post. So on the top of a blog post, you often have, you know, the published date, the person's who wrote it, and so on and so forth. So we wanted to give that same data in a newsletter. And yeah, so we've made it really simple for you. Everything is, we tried to make everything as like pre-populated as possible. So for example, when you toggle on author details, this is pulled directly from your admin user, so your Gravatar, and this is your username. And if you don't like that, you can always change it. It's all live editing, so just click and change it as you go. Issue number, so this is the only bit that's a bit manual, just because we don't want, we want you to be able to, you know, skip an issue or go back an issue depending on what you want to do. So we don't want to pre-fill that for you. So let's say you want it to be issue number 3, or for example, you don't even want to call it issue, you can change that. So you can do something like this. So it's WP built number 3. Reading time is, we've kind of handled that for you, so you don't have to do it. All your only decision here is whether you want it on or off. If you want it on, when we publish it, you'll see that this is auto updated, so you don't have to worry about the number here. And we just calculate that based on the number of words. So I can't remember what the calculation was, but it was X number of words equals X length of reading time. Read online as well. So this is a link, and we've handled that for you as well. So you can turn it off.
Can I ask a question about that one? Does that one go to the, so in my case, if I'm using a post, does it go to the, it just goes to the WordPress post if somebody clicks on that in the email? Or
so we've given you a choice.
Yes, that's the bit that I couldn't remember. Okay, so you can choose for it to go to the WordPress normal post that you would see on the website, or you can go to the archive, the narrow newsletter, you know, version. Okay.
Yep. And so just to expound on that a little bit, like yeah, so to expand on that a bit in terms of use case, so you might want your read online link to go to your blog post. If, for example, you like to cut off some of parts of your post and, you know, kind of direct people to read online instead, and, you know, get people onto your website, or you want a slightly nicer formatted reading experience for your users, then you might direct them to the blog post. When you would use the email HTML instead is when, if you have like secret coupons, for example, on your newsletter, and you don't want that to show up on your blog post, but you still have to deal with people who are using an outdated email client or something, and those people are super used to just clicking the read online link so that they can see the newsletter on their browser and not have to deal with it in their email client because it's broken or whatever, which is super common. Not because of our formatting, but just some email clients are like that. Then that's when the email HTML will come in handy.
Yeah, I, for example, always go for blog posts because there's audio content, and that's obviously not going to be in an email. So there's an audio, there's a play button, and possibly a YouTube embed on the blog post, which there won't be on the HTML email. So yeah, that's a good use case. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have some users who have paid membership, paid newsletters as well, and so they obviously don't want it to be in a blog post, so they use the email HTML option.
Got it.
So yeah, so that's the metadata block, and you can change the font size, change your profile image. Let's see, we have I don't have a picture of
Oh,
you.
that's a good thing, Leslie. Nobody wants to see. Oh, just
yeah, so that's the metadata block. And while I'm here, I'll just talk about one last thing. So you have a bunch of other things you can change as well. Date format, line type, you can change it to a dot. Can change the color as well. But the last thing that I want to talk about, which is quite important, is all of our blocks have this additional feature called show hide block. So this lets you choose if you want this to appear in the blog post and the email newsletter, or just one or the other. So for example, if let's say you're showing this in your blog post and you already have metadata in your blog post and you don't want this to repeat itself, you can just turn it off and it won't show up. In contrast, you want it to show up in the email newsletter so people can see how, see what the reading time is like and so on. So this, again, we have this in all of our blocks. And it's super handy, so I really suggest you make use of it.
This is, Leslie, that bit there is the best feature. That I would say that is by itself the biggest thing, because it totally enables you to make a complicated blog post and a simple newsletter, or a simple newsletter and a complicated blog post. So in my case, I can embed the YouTube video, and obviously I would say show in the blog post, and hide in the email. And all I have to do is toggle that little switch, and and it's all in the one piece of content. It's absolutely, that was the bit when I saw your marketing stuff, that was the bit where the penny dropped, and I thought, I've got to try this. Yeah.
Thanks. That's awesome to know. Yeah.
Okay. Well, because previous to that, I was just fed up creating the piece of content over there and then just copying and pasting just the bits that needed to go into the email over onto the other third-party service. So I'd scroll down a bit, copy that bit, paste it over, scroll down a bit more, copy that, miss out that. There's an advert there that doesn't belong in the news. You know what I mean? It's brilliant. Really,
super
really
painful.
Good.
Cool. Thanks. It's really nice to hear that. Okay, so let's talk about some of our other blocks. So what should we do next? Okay, this is an easy one. I'll show you two in a go, two at a time. So let's talk about the show hide content block, this is, as Nathan was just talking about, is like kind of the basic block. So you can see that this is basically just a container, and you have this kind of show hide option, and that's all there is in this block. So if you just want to show or hide something, then this is the block you use, because it's bare bones. You can get that job done really quickly. And if you wanted a fancier version of that, you can use our container block, which is the same thing, except it comes with a whole host of design options. So you can do full width, you can do call out size, you can change the padding, you can change the border radius. I'm not sure if you can see that.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, it's subtle, okay. But yeah, I can see it. Yeah. There
we go.
Yeah, nice.
And you can do the background color, font color, but also, so importantly, and this is a bit that I think sometimes people don't realize, that you can type to choose a block. So a lot of people think, oh, okay, this is just for writing in, but that's not actually the case. You can add, buttons. You can, what else would you like to add? You can add an image, add whatever you like.
Yep.
So this is just a container. You can add whatever you like. It's not limited to text.
I have a question here. I've never run up against this problem, but with the advent of more sophisticated blocks, are there constraints as to what you would recommend people put? Let's say that this container block is going to go into the newsletter. I could go all crazy with this. I could obviously put video in there and anything I wanted. Are there things which you would recommend? I mean, would it be more sensible just to go with buttons, images, headers, and text, not trying to get too flashy with the layouts and CSS animations and things like that?
Yeah,
Right.
so I think like the easiest guideline is if you don't think it's going to show up in an email, like the typical type of email that you receive every day, then don't add it in.
Don't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, no flashy CSS stuff, no none of that. So what we've actually done within the newsletter editor
Yeah.
is we've limited the number of blocks you
Yeah.
can use. So these are the things that we know for sure will work if you use them in a newsletter. So it's super basic. It's basically buttons, columns, separator, but then obviously when you go into your post editor, we can't control what you do or do not use because that's no longer our custom post type. And so in there, I guess you have the option to go crazy, but
you're on your own.
yeah.
Yeah. Don't go nuts. Yeah. If it moves, don't put it in.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but so that's one of the good things about our blog, right? So this is the post editor right now. So we're in the post editor, and let's say you wanted to do something crazy on your blog. What you can do is add one of our containers, and then inside the container, add all your crazy special patterns and designs and blocks from whatever block plugin that you're using. So that's another way you can do it as well, and another way you can think about it. So in that case, like, if you added a bunch of crazy stuff, then you want it to show in blog posts and you turn it off in the email newsletter.
Great.
Yeah. So again, that was for the post editor. But let's close that for now. Yeah. Okay. So that's the container. I'm going to delete that. Currently selecting things is like my nemesis.
That's okay. I use the container block quite a lot just to pack in just big bits of repeated content. So, for example, in our newsletter, we have different categories. So I've set up the headings for the categories and one of the other blocks you're about to show, and I just drag that in each time, and it works really well.
Nice. Yeah, so actually, if you were doing categories, and you know that all your newsletters have the same categories every single week, then what I would suggest is instead of doing it in the newsletter editor as a live newsletter, you edit your pattern instead.
That's what I did. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah. So because you know that it's repeating right every single week, and so you add the category in here. So let's say what categories you have?
Podcasts. We have core.
Deals. Core?
Yeah,
did you say core?
Core, like WordPress core, because it's all about the WordPress. Yeah, so it's things like that. Yeah,
WordPress core. Yeah,
exactly.
And that just kind of gives you a structure. So
Perfect.
So when you're writing a newsletter, it goes really, really fast, and you don't have to be creating these from scratch every single time. Okay, sorry, now we're jumping around. Is it getting confusing? Should I just stick to one place?
Yeah. Maybe stay in making a newsletter. I think that's best now.
Okay. So the other thing that, so we've talked about show height content, and we've talked about the container block. Let's go through some of the other easier blocks to talk about. So that's the author byline is next. And this is very similar to the metadata. This also works as, you can put it at the top of your newsletter. Sometimes people have that in the top of their blog posts, and it works exactly the same way. So you can type in stuff here, and if you don't type in, it's actually, it autofills with your admin username. But in our case, let's type something in. Co-founder, and we have a follow button as well. So if you don't want it, you can always turn it off, and you can choose where you want people to go.
It's nice. I've used that a few times. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. You actually used it in a way that we were completely not intending.
Which was to show who was going to be on the webinar. So like you appeared in one of those. You're not the author, but it works. Yeah, it works perfectly. Yeah. It's So I had a podcast and a webinar just the other day with Mark Westgard, and it's just perfect for that, isn't it? There they are.
Yeah.
Give them there. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, cool. So you can change the button style if you want, just a little bit. And as I mentioned before, you can add this to your blog post or not. There's that show height block again. Yeah, so that's the end. And so we can use this as like the signature, which is kind of how I started using it actually for myself.
Yeah. Yep.
So you've got this on the top and then you've got this in the end, and it just kind of feels nice, like nice bookends.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one I want to talk about is the social follow block. So this is a super new block. I think we released this 2 weeks ago, kind of quietly. So Nathan, do you use this block?
I didn't even know it was there.
Cool.
This is good.
There you go. Yeah, so this is the social follow block, and it adds social links to your newsletter. So it works very similarly to the I can't remember what it's called. So the core blocks we have this as a core block as well. The only difference is that with the core blocks, they are using SVGs, and SVGs don't show up in email.
No.
Which again is like this annoying legacy thing. And so what we've done is we've had to recreate every single icon as a PNG.
Yeah.
And so it's basically, if you're already familiar with like the social block with Gutenberg, this is the same thing really. Yeah, so you've got this little follow me on.
Yeah, that's lovely.
You can change. So you can be like WP builds can be found on. And if you don't like that, you can just turn off the description text altogether. And we have a bunch of different options for you. So you mentioned you like square.
Yeah.
And we've got color. There we go.
Nice.
So it's super simple.
Yeah, that is cool. I like that. Yeah, easy to use. Set it up once in the template, with the pattern, in it comes. Yeah. Yeah.
So we put that down there. And incidentally, that's how this is built. So remember our pattern, default pattern. So this is just a social follow block as well. Yeah. So those are the kind of nice, easy, basic blocks. Let's see. Okay, so now let's talk about.
Yeah, do that one next. Yeah.
Subscriber form.
Leave the post embeds till last because it's the best one.
Your favorite one. Yeah. The one that you abuse.
Yeah, just totally make my emails twice as long as they should be with it.
Yeah, okay. So our subscriber form, we wanted this to be as simple and as clean as possible, with the intention that anyone who wants something elaborate is going to pay $100 and go get, a fancy Gravity Forms or Ninja Forms or something like that. And so for us, we just wanted this to be a simple form for people who aren't trying to do anything, just, want to set up a form in seconds. And so this is all it takes really, you just add it in. So because you've set up the API key right at the beginning ages ago in the onboarding, so we already have linked it magically to Mailchimp for you. So you can select your audience, and yeah, so you don't have to touch this aside from adding it in really.
Yep.
And aside from that, we've got a bunch of formatting, styling, customization, design stuff. Mm-hmm. So you can change it from portrait to landscape. You can change the button field radius, padding, and we give you a bunch of options. So you can add the form heading. So let's just turn everything on so you can see it. So you've got the heading, subscribe to our newsletter. And the description, we send one every week. And so we've got name and email field. So if you don't want the name, you can turn that off. And if you live in Europe, you might need like a GDPR checkbox. So we've got that covered for you. And if some people like to have text beneath the form.
Okay.
So we never spam ever. Let's see, and lastly, the success message, so that this is exactly where it shows up once they've successfully subscribed, and you can change this too. So thanks, see ya in your inbox. And so this is the form. You can change
Color
the
options,
button.
that's nice.
But you can also see that we've automatically used the colors that you've chosen in the settings in the newsletter theme designer. So you don't have to touch that again, assuming that you were happy with what you had set up originally.
It's intriguing that you've got the show in newsletter option there. That's quite an interesting one. It just suddenly occurred to me that would you ever want that in your newsletter? But you could do.
Yeah, some people do, right?
Yeah.
So the
of course, people could
here,
forward an email, couldn't they? Thinking about it, you could receive an email from somebody. That's a good point. I was being a bit thick there.
So the caveat is that only the heading, description, and button will be shown. So you can't actually fill out the form inside the email. So let's say we check it, save the draft, and I'll show you how that looks. So we preview email in browser. So it just shows up like this. Subscribe to our newsletter, and someone who wants to subscribe, they click on that, and then that takes them to the main page.
Oh, okay, that's curious. Yeah, so it sends you to the page where obviously the form itself would be. Nice. Okay, got it. I did not know that. That's good.
Yeah, but I imagine most people would turn it off, and we have it off by default as well.
Yeah.
So that's a nice way also. So if you're using our form and you want someone on the blog post to subscribe to your newsletter as they're reading it, then you can have the form baked into your newsletter as itself and just have it show up in the blog post. That's what I do for all my newsletters. Do you do that, Nathan?
I have no subscribe form. I use a different, like you said, I have a different service which I put in. It's in the template. It's not in a block. It's not in one of the hide show blocks that you have. It's in part of the template to throw it in. I think it's at like paragraph 5 or something like that.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay. So, and now we finally come to Nathan's favorite block.
Oh, so good. Right. Just to give you some reference here, this is a total service, right? Just this one alone, people pay to have this on a monthly basis. It's like a SaaS deal. If you've come across Revue, REVUE, or Curated, that their model is this. It's like curating content. You go out and you find links that you want to put into your email to have a curated email. This totally handles it all, and you buy the plugin, and you got it all baked into WordPress. It's brilliant. Anyway, I'll shut up and let you show it.
No, great introduction. Okay, so this is it. The little thing that lets you add posts really easily, so that you don't have to be copying and pasting and all of that stuff. So let me show you an example. Okay, cool. So here are, as you can see, we have a whole bunch of posts with the word newsletter in it. So let's click on this one.
So what Leslie's doing now is showing you posts that are already on her blog, that are already published. So it'll scrape all of your own content already. So, that's a big time saver right away off the bat. Oh, there's no featured image on that one. Darn.
Yeah. Okay, let's try. Oh, let's do wpbuilds.com and see what it shows.
Oh, Lord.
We should do that. Okay, so if we add WP builds, there we go. That looks nice. It's WordPress all the way down.
Look at that. Look, it just did all that. It went and scraped my featured image. It went and scraped the, the metadata, put it all in. You can edit it. It's brilliant. Look at that.
Yeah, and so Nathan adds like 100 of these every week.
That's it's more like 200, I'd say.
Let's add in let's see what happens if we do it without the HTTP. Oh, okay, cool. It also works. So yeah, so you can just add in whatever links you have. It could be a blog post. Let's do Newsletter Glue blog subscribers. I don't know.
I'll put one in the chat for you. Let's get the webinar.
Yeah.
Let's get this webinar. Hold on. I don't know if I've got the I don't know if I'll have the featured image, but I'll put it in the private chat on StreamYard. Where's the private chat? See if you can grab that. See if that'll come across. You'll have to copy and paste it.
Okay.
I don't know if I've put a featured image in.
Have you put it in?
Yeah, so if you look at the far right-hand side, there's the private chat icon. It's like the fourth one down.
Okay. This one?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Is there a featured image? I bet there is. There we go.
Yay, look at that.
Yeah, so basically when you add links, it immediately pulls the featured image, the title, and the excerpt from every single post. So if you've been adding links every week to like a weekly roundup newsletter, hopefully you can see how this saves you hours of time, really. Yeah, so this is one of our blog posts. Let's copy that in, paste that. Okay, so now that we have a whole bunch of posts, let's get to designing them. So we have a few options over here. Open links in new window, no follow links. So let's do follow. Table width ratio. So right now they're full, so it's just like a single column.
Can you imagine if I left it like that? My newsletter would be literally a mile long.
That's true.
Yeah, I go for the 3070. It seems to create the least amount of space. That's what I do. Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So then it just kind of all formats itself, and you don't have to waste time plunking in images, deciding what to write here, deciding what to write here. It's all done for you. You can also switch the placement around. Obviously now that you switched it, the image is 70%, which is too big. Yeah, and then you have additional options. So you can decide to turn off your image. So then that immediately goes back to single column again.
This is a great example of where the spacing in Gutenberg doesn't represent. If you turn the images off again, it looks like the gaps between the posts is really big. It's not. When you actually get the newsletter and preview it, it's just exactly what you'd expect. It's like 20px or something like that. Let's have a look.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
Let's add the images back in though.
Yeah.
And then nice. And then so you have the option of a date. So if the post has like a published date or something in its metadata, it'll show up. But often I guess people don't do that, or they haven't set it up correctly. So we can just turn that off. And labels. So I like to add kind of like a
attribution or something there.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is
feature request, Leslie, would be an attribute, an auto attribute toggle there. That would be no, not doing it.
Yeah. Okay. So image border radius. Now we're just going into fiddling with the design of it. So and by the way, so everything is live edit. So as you saw me just add in the URL here, you can also change everything here. So let's say you don't want this Newsletter Glue blog here, you can just remove it. And if you want to add in your own kind of thoughts on the piece rather than just the excerpt that the site has done for you, you can write it in here. So like, I thought this was cool, and so on and so forth. And then if you want to change the image, you can do that as well.
Yeah, quite a few blog posts that I link to don't have a featured image, but I want to. So I actually go and create my own featured image and put it in there just to make it look less weird, because, you know, a blank placeholder doesn't look great. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah. And let's say you've done all this and you regret it because it now looks really funny, you can just refresh it. So if you refresh it by clicking this little bit, it goes back to the original stuff that it pulls from the original link. And if you want to change the URL, so you can just click on this and you can change the URL directly and it'll pull whatever new URL you have. And if you want to delete, you can do that here easily. Just delete the link and it's gone.
And you can move them up and down,
yeah, this side you can just move things around. So you don't want this on the top. You want it to be lower. Yeah, you can organize things that way as well. And then finally, we've got some color as well. So let's say you want to give a background to everything. That looks harsh, but you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Let's change the text color, make it a bit darker. And let's go crazy with the yeah. So this is how, I mean, please don't do this, but if you wanted to, you could. And so you save thing. All of this looks good in your blog post as well. I mean, it's not going to look good now because we've done crazy things to it. But if you wanted to have like your link round up in a blog post as well, then it looks good here as well. So you can just use this even for your blog posts, so not just for newsletters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
That is really a cool feat. Yeah. Honestly, like curated newsletters, Review just got bought by Twitter. Facebook are getting into this space because it's hot. Curated newsletters are really hot. I have a little workflow where if I'm reading something online and I want to include it in our newsletter, I just save it as a bookmark in like Pocket or Evernote or something. And then I'll sit down and drag the 4,000 in that I save each week. And it takes minutes, and it's incredibly effective. It's really, really a cool thing to do, and you can produce some really nice content very, very quickly. Great. I daren't show you my template, my pattern. It'll freak you out. I honestly think you'll freak out.
I don't want to see it then.
It's just ridiculous. I've just had a look at it. It's like 4 pages long. Yeah, it's pretty long.
Oh no.
I know, but I love it. I've worked at it very, very carefully. Lots of little CSS to add like 4 pixels here and 3 pixels there just to get it just so.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's good though. Enjoy that kind of stuff. So we don't have any questions. Obviously, anybody who's watching is quite happy with the demo that we've given, which is great. That is good. If you did have a question and you were feeling like you were going to wait till the end, it feels like we're drawing to a close. Yep. Like I said at the top, Leslie has very kindly offered us a coupon code. And if you want to make use of a 15% discount, feel free to do that. You're just going to use the coupon code WPBuilds15 at the checkout. So navigate to Newsletter Glue in whichever way you find is the easiest, probably Google or something, and then 15% off with WPBuilds, the code. I'll put that back up again in a sec because there was actually one question that came through right near the beginning when you explained about the Pro version. It was quite near the start. Max was saying, is there we obviously have seen the Pro version. Is there a repo version? And if so, what's the difference, I guess?
Yeah, so there is a version available for free in the WordPress repo. The main differences, I'm trying to think if I can pull it up in a way that won't break everything. Okay, I'm just going to talk about it because I feel like so the main differences are that you don't have the theme designer in the free version. So we've got like a very basic thing where you can pick a single color and then we just use that color that you've chosen across like links and buttons and block quotes. Yeah, so it's a much more basic color picker rather than an entire theme designer. The other big thing is you don't have any blocks with the exception of the show hide content block. So you have this block in the free version, and that just kind of gives you an idea of what can be done. Like we wanted to kind of open people's eyes to the possibilities of what people can do with newsletters. So we've included the show hide content block in the free version, but all the other blocks are only available in the pro version.
Okay, that's good to know.
I think that's it. Oh, and
Yeah.
the last thing is the free version only connects to Mailchimp. So if you want to integrate with any other email service providers, then you have to use the pro version.
Okay, thank you. I'm using Sendy, which is actually a self-hosted service. I do like the self-hosted things where it's possible, and I use that. And that was a big thing for me. That was a big decision why I purchased it, to see that you'd made the effort, because most of these services will not connect to Sendy. So it's really nice that you did. Speaking of pro version, I don't know if you've got the page up and available. It might be good to just show what the pricing is. That might be helpful. So newsletterglue.com, click the get started link by the looks of it. And there we go.
Log out.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. Oh, now we're back there. Never mind. So we can see 3 tiers, $76 a year for the writer publisher. Main difference looks like it's the
number of licenses.
Number of licenses. That's it, is it?
Yep.
Yeah, there's no other difference. So one site, $76 a year, 5 sites, $141, and 25 sites, $372. And you get a year of support and update, the usual things. But obviously, if you look at the thing, you're going to get 15% off if you do use the offer code WP Builds. There wasn't another question. There was just a comment which came in from Peter. Peter was just saying, in addition to us, WP Builds, Birgit over at Gutenberg Times, she uses it, as does Matt Medeiros with the WP Minute. And I know that, for example, Remkus de Vries, who was on the show that we did yesterday, he's also a user. It's great. You know, I hope that by the time that you finish this, you've made up your mind that it's certainly worth a look. I can't tell you how much time it saved me. I'm using the content, the block where you can add content in from other websites. That's just this one, the post embed, and it's just saving me a boatload of time. And everything is configurable by me, and you can, because it's in WordPress, you can do all the other fun things that you can do on that website as well. So great upsell, I would have thought, to any clients. You know, I've got this option so that you can not only create your SEO content in a post, but at the exact same time, we can send the newsletter out, and you don't even have to lift a finger. It's just going to be done for you, a real time saver. And I'm sure all of your clients would love to have their time saved. So there we go. Newsletter Glue. Leslie, thank you for showing it. Max is back. He says it was an excellent demo. Yeah, that was nice of you, Max. Thank you for sticking around, Max. Appreciate that. Okay, I think unless any other comments come in, which it doesn't look like they are, we'll knock it on the head. Leslie, we've been going for an hour and 35 minutes. We are supposed to be like an hour. Sorry, everybody. But I'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks. Wait, hold on. Let me just close this. So I can...
There we go. Yeah. That's nice. Yeah, I should have put that screen on a minute ago, shouldn't I? Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks so much for coming along and sharing your time with us. Before we head out, you mentioned that you respond yourself to like commentary and feature requests and all that. What's the best way of reaching you?
So the best way of reaching me is via our support email. That's support@newsletterglue.com. We respond within 24 hours for every single email. And me and Ahmed are super friendly, so come say hi. And follow us on Twitter @newsletterglue. We also respond there. And we love it when people tag us and show us their newsletters that they've built using our plugin. That's always fun. And I'm also one of those crazy people that I subscribe to a lot of my customers' newsletters. So I subscribe to, like Nathan knows what I'm talking about, right? So like sometimes he sends out a newsletter and within 5 minutes I'll email him back and I'll give him comments about
it's too long.
his newsletters. Yeah.
Basically, it's too long, Nathan. Yeah, all of my emails end up in Gmail, at least anyway. You know, they get to that point where Gmail refuses to show any more. It just says, if you want to read this, go elsewhere. But that's fine because the link is at the top in the read more section. But okay, so that's where you can be found. Appreciate your time today. Yeah. Thanks, Leslie, so much for joining us today. We'll knock it on the head. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.